Hello, Attorney Ken here. So, I'm creating this channel and I don't know what it's going to be yet. I just simply want to take a decade of lawyering and try to mine information that would be helpful to people as best I can. And so, it's not legal advice, right? Because legal advice would have to be tailored to a specific person's specific situation. But what I'm doing is so I'm a workers' compensation lawyer, which means that I have represented hundreds, if not thousands now, of people who've been injured on the job. It's a lot of overseeing medical treatment. So I have read thousands of orthopedic medical records, and so I argue over whether a certain medical condition was caused by a work accident and what medical treatment is necessary. So there's a big overlap with medical stuff there. So there's a lot of medical billing stuff that I've seen as a result of that experience. But anyway, I'm an injury lawyer, right? And I have never wanted to or felt really comfortable about being on a bunch of billboards, hurt, call Ken. That just, it just never did, that never did seem to be what I wanted to do. And, I will talk about injuries some on this channel, but really what I'm trying to do is, just sort of look at what I've learned being a lawyer and make some of those lessons available to people as they may be having issues in their life that's relevant to. So it's not specifically that I want to get an injury case. It's that, yeah, I do that, but I've learned a lot of other things. Because, for example, in dealing with and representing the problems that people who have a work injury are confronting, it's quite often there's a medical issue, right? But then there's a financial issue because they typically have lost time from work when they come to me. So they're behind on their bills. Maybe their car's about to get repossessed. Maybe they're about to get evicted from their apartment. That's very common. Very common. They're about to get evicted. Sometimes if they do own a home, perhaps their home is about to be foreclosed upon. They may have outstanding medical bills that weren't paid for by the employer or the insurance company in the workers' compensation case, all sorts of things. And so, it hasn't just been injuries that I've been dealing with. It's all these other problems. So, and then they often will have, they'll have relationship issues. They'll have marital issues. They'll have because finances put a huge strain on relationships. They say that's one of the biggest things people argue about in relationships is money. And so, when people they're hurt, the spouse maybe is the caretaker or is having to, at a minimum, pick up slack around the house because the other person, one of the breadwinners, is now injured and maybe restricted physically. So, the role that I played sometimes can be a little bit of being a lawyer, and it can feel a lot like being a counselor, sometimes a little bit like being a clergy member. Sometimes it feels like being, I'm not a financial advisor, but sometimes it feels that way, right? Because of the issues that, my clients need help with. So what I wanted to talk about today, other than giving a little background on myself as I get this channel started, and I don't know what the algorithm is looking for, so I'm sure that you liking the video, if it is helpful, will be a great help, and or subscribing to the channel. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is just in general, if you feel like you're having a legal challenge of some sort, right? Maybe you loaned some money to somebody, or maybe you borrowed money from somebody. Maybe it was a bank, or maybe it was a friend. Maybe you are in a dispute with your business partner. Maybe you're in a dispute with your your married partner, your husband or wife, that could turn into a legal problem if you get divorced. What's the biggest thing that I see that is missing, right, from the sort of the consciousness of the person that's experiencing a legal problem? Quite often. Now, that's not always the case. It depends on the type of legal problem. But again, I'm just mining what I've seen for gold that might help you. The biggest thing that I think people are facing that they have some control over, right? Because I obviously can only work with you. I cannot make someone who's not watching this video do anything. So yes, there may be things that they have done wrong, right? Your husband or wife, if you're getting a divorce, may have done things wrong. Your business partner may have done things wrong. Your lender may have accelerated the loan on you or increased the variable rate interest, or something like that. There's obviously other things. It's not just you. I'm not saying it's just you in that situation, but you're the one that I'm talking to right now. So I'm going to focus on what might be helpful to you if you find yourself in some sort of legal dispute. The main skill that people seem to be lacking when they're about to be or are in the midst of a legal conflict of some type is the skill of listening. So the voice in your head that's saying, well, what are you talking about? I listen. Well, that's the voice that keeps you from listening. Right? Because we all have a little voice in our head that's constantly chattering, right? It's why people climb mountains, jump out of airplanes, and ride fast motorcycles and fast cars to try to escape that when you sit still, there is a little voice that's chattering away in your head telling you, making some commentary like Mystery Science Theater 3000 about everything that you've ever done, are doing right now, might do tomorrow, or did yesterday. So most people's legal problem or challenge does not warrant getting a lawyer, because lawyers cost thousands of dollars, or if you have an injury case, we take the case on contingency. But if you have an injury case, then you want to call an injury lawyer, right? Because they might just be able to help you with that. But if you're watching this video, it could be that the legal challenge you're having, it doesn't make sense to hire an attorney, or you can't afford to hire one, or it's not the type of legal issue that an attorney would take it on a contingency. Maybe you've already talked to a lawyer and they don't call you back, or they're contingency lawyers but they're not signing up your case. Well, that may be that it's not it's not a good case for a lawyer to be involved in for one reason or another. Typically economics are at play there. But whatever the problem is, right, whoever the problem is with, can you say with absolute certainty that you know what the issue is? What is the issue? Right? So, and that's what listening makes available, right? If I go into a courtroom and I argue to a judge, I need to know who that judge is. I need to know what they care about. I need to know the applicable body of law that they're looking at. I need to know the most recent cases that have interpreted that body of law. I need to know what the statutes are, right? I need to listen to the relevant universe of stuff that's out there that's going to be informing the judge's opinion. I also need to have really listened to my client's adversary. Say it's a workers' compensation case, and I'm up against an employer and an insurance company. Say that the insurance company has denied a surgery that my client needs. The doctor says my client needs. Well, I need to And I can't just argue. My client needs the surgery. It was caused by the work injury. You have to pay for it. The law says you have to pay for it. Well, in certain circumstances, the law does say that, and the insurance company still doesn't approve it. So what then? Well, we can go before a judge. But I need to know very clearly, what is their position, right? And if I listen to their position, and I don't just listen to the little voice in my head that's telling me that, they're an a-hole and, I need to take them to court and fight, right? And oftentimes that is what my client wants me to do because they're upset. But if I really listen to what they're saying, quite often, we're able to get that surgery approved, right? Or sometimes in listening to my client and the other side, what I'm able to figure out is, well, really what makes sense is that the case should settle. My client would really rather just get out of the system, right? And the insurance company doesn't want to pay for a surgery because they don't want to be on the hook for endless medical treatment, but they would be willing to pay my client the value of the surgery to settle the case, right? Now that's just an example from my job and what I do every day of listening. But if you're in a dispute with somebody, right, whether it's in court or whether you're being sued or whether you want to sue somebody or whether you just really are at your wit's end with someone that you think is being totally unreasonable, I challenge you to say, look in the mirror and say, have I really listened to them? And what I mean by listening is that, has there at least been an effort on your part to, for a period of time, for a conversation, take everything that the little voice in your head is telling you about why you should win and why they're doing you wrong? Can you just bracket that? You keep it. You don't give it up, right? If you go to court, if you get a lawyer, if you take them to small claims court, right? If you post a Google review for somebody that sold you something that isn't right with what it's supposed to be, you keep all that, but you just bracket it, right? And you just get curious for a period of time, for a conversation about, well, what is the issue from their perspective, right? Now, it could be that they are just completely unreasonable, like you think they are, and that there's nothing that you listening could possibly do, right? If you're sitting here listening to me and you're totally calm and you're saying, yeah, I really get what their position is, but they're just not doing the right thing. Their heart's in the wrong place, right? Well, okay. But if you're sitting here and you're finding yourself getting angry and mad and aggravated at me for even suggesting that you haven't listened to them, I can tell you haven't listened to them. For a fact, I can tell you, if you're getting mad at me for telling you to listen to them, you don't, there's something you hadn't heard, right? And so what everybody's got to decide before they go and lawyer up or get a lawyer or spend a whole bunch of money, time, and effort, drinking, anger is like drinking the poison and hoping somebody else will die. I fight in court for a living, but I can tell you, I've had to figure out how to do that without being angry about it, right? It's just like, okay, do I understand what the issue is? Yes, I do. Can this issue be resolved in any way without, taking the risk of a trial? If it can, I want to explore that for everybody. If it cannot, then we do what we got to do. But that's the thing. That's what I would encourage you to ask yourself if you're having some sort of dispute. Do I really understand 100% of where this other person's coming from, right? Maybe it's not purely a money thing. Maybe there's a reputation thing. Maybe there's an emotion thing. Maybe an apology maybe there's usually some wrong on both sides. Maybe maybe somebody saying I'm sorry, maybe it makes a difference, So Have you understood what the other side's issue is? Have you really listened to them? Have you taken a second and put aside what you think the issue is, right? Because if you're 100% certain that you are right, 100% sure you're right. Just something to think about. I hope y'all have a lovely weekend, or if you're watching this video and it's a long time from now on a Friday or a Monday, whatever day it is, I hope it's a great one. Thanks.